Hey people, how are you? It's Makeda Valletta, also known as the Body Scientist. I am doing this in two places, on my IG page, on IG Live, and on my Facebook fan page, Makeda Valletta The Body Scientist. And then I'll be hopefully posting this to YouTube. So I hope you all are doing well today. Today I'm going to talk about vitamin D. It's something that I've been wanting to speak about for a while. There's a lot of misconceptions around it. And once again, if you are not familiar with me, my background is in the exercise and nutritional sciences, and also biotechnology prior to that. So a lot of people don't realize that nutrition is all chemistry. And when you study nutrition in school, it's a lot of biochemistry in particular. And so vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin. So we have water-soluble and fat-soluble vitamins. Water-soluble vitamins are the last part of my name, K, E, D, and A. Those are fat-soluble, I think I said. Vitamins K, E, D, and A are the fat-soluble vitamins. And what that means is that you need fat to absorb them and to digest them and absorb them. And water-soluble vitamins, you need water. And so that's the B vitamins and vitamin C. The fat-soluble vitamins, you need fat, and you need animal fat for vitamins A and D. So a lot of people get told that we get vitamin D from the sun. We've all heard that before, but there's a lot to that. So let me get my nerdy stuff right in my mind, so I can not bore you with this scientific discussion. Okay, so first of all, the way that we make vitamin D in the first place from the sun has to do with when the sun hits our skin, it interacts with cholesterol. And then it produces 7-dehydroxy something that then makes vitamin D, okay? So in order to even make vitamin D from the sun, we need to have cholesterol in our system. And cholesterol is only in animal foods. Cholesterol does not exist in plant foods, so we need to consume cholesterol. Cholesterol is an antioxidant. There are so many myths about cholesterol being bad for you that's completely not true. And I have YouTube videos about that. Where I speak about cholesterol, and you can also do the research. But cholesterol is an antioxidant, very important. We need it to make our hormones. Vitamin D is actually a hormone. It's actually not a vitamin. A vitamin stands for something amine. So it's all biochemistry. You have different groups in chemistry. So you got enzymes or one kind of protein, but then you have like amines and amino groups and stuff. And so vitamin D actually doesn't fit into the category with the other things that are considered vitamins biochemically. They are hormones. Vitamin D is a hormone. Okay, so we have with the UV rays, there's UVA and UVB rays. It's the UVB rays that are responsible for the production of vitamin D. When you put sunscreen on your skin, it blocks the production of, when you put sunscreen on your skin, it blocks the UVB rays. So putting sunscreen on your skin will prevent your body from even being able to make vitamin D. And then if you have too much sun, like depending on the darkness of your skin, depends on how much sunlight you need. The darker your skin is, the more sunlight you need to get your vitamin D requirements. Somebody who's pale skinned in the summertime can get like 20, 30 minutes of sun, and that's good. If they try to extend that, like, I'm gonna put some sunscreen on and I'm gonna stay in the sun longer, then you get too much vitamin D, too much sun, and too much sun that goes way over what you're supposed to get. Then it destroys vitamin D, but it also destroys a folate vitamin. And folate vitamins are necessary for the reproduction of our DNA in our cells. So if you start to mess with folate, then your cells start to divide abnormally. So you have abnormal cells, and that can cause issues. Also, Yeah, so the body protects for that, right? The body protects for getting too much sun. At the same time, in the north, like I'm from New York, I live in Chicago. People who live in most of like North America, Canada, Europe, darker skinned people in those places a lot of times seriously have vitamin D deficiencies, even though it can also happen to darker skinned people who live in sunny, hot places. And the reason is two. There are two reasons. One, in the north, there's like, depending on where you are, there's a certain amount of months where the sun is not even capable of producing vitamin D because the UVA rays and the UVB rays change. The UV radiation, how it hits the earth, changes. So how much UVB rays is in the sun depends on the latitude. It depends on like the angle of how the sun is hitting the earth. It depends on how much smog is in the air. It depends on reflective surfaces like snow. Depends on buildings. So all those things play a role. And also it's talking about how the sun, the angle at which it hits the earth, also has to do with why you see different undertones and so many different shades of brown. Like if you look at, I always say like indigenous people from South America, indigenous people from the Caribbean, we're not light-skinned people. A lot of times when we see images of Native Americans, they're like, almost white and very fair complected. But people who are indigenous to hot places, like South America, like the Caribbean, like the Polynesian Islands, have darker skin. But there's a totally different complexion and undertone than people from India. Or people from India have totally different undertones than people from Africa, and even in Africa it varies, So a lot of that has to do with how the sun hits the earth there. I know like when I'm in California, it doesn't brown me the same way. Like if I go to Florida, or if I'm in the southeast, or if I go to the Caribbean, I'm in South America, it browns me different, or at least the East Coast sun, let me say. Browns me different than when I'm on the West Coast in California where it's really sunny. It doesn't make me the same color, and it's how the sun hits and then how I am, right? Okay, so the other thing is that even if you live someplace where it's hot, even if you live in Miami or you live in the Caribbean, if you're walking around covered up all the time, you're not going to get enough vitamin D either, because like each patch of our skin can only make a certain amount of vitamin D before it like maxes out, right? And so the amount of vitamin D that you can produce depends on the amount of the amount of skin that you have exposed to the sun, which is why like I walk around half naked in the summertime, because like it's an urge. Like my skin, it feels, all I want to do is put cocoa butter on my skin and get sun on my skin, and I feel like I'm activating, and it's because it does activate melanin as well. The actual melanin can block the UVA rays. Sunscreen cannot block the UVA rays, and the UVA rays are the ones that cause an issue. So melanin actually blocks that. And of course, sun activates more melanin. Melanin also helps to protect our collagen. When you get burned, like getting sunburned, this is another problem with like even sunscreen and all the burning. When you get sunburned, it destroys your collagen, and it's pro-inflammatory. And the more you burn and destroy your collagen, then you age, and that causes you to age. Even as a woman, a melanated woman, I still put stuff on my skin to protect it. Not sunscreen, but raw cocoa butter. And actually, the cocoa butter that I get in New York is fermented cocoa butter. And putting fermented products on your skin is also very good for the health of your skin. There's this book, I read this book years ago. It's called Deep Nutrition. I don't know if you can see it. So it's called Deep Nutrition, Why Your Genes Need Traditional Foods. And it's by a medical doctor, Catherine Shanahan, and her husband, Luke. I highly recommend this. And this is, we'll go again talk about why I just don't believe in vegan stuff, because there are a lot of animal foods that are really important, and there are certain nutrients that we can only get from animals. So vitamin D being one of them, and vitamin A. And vitamin D and vitamin A go together. The most potent source of vitamin D is liver, okay? So a lot of reasons why you're seeing vitamin D deficiencies in general. It can happen even in fairer skinned people, and especially in women. Childbirth drains women of vital nutrients, and especially when it comes to fat soluble stuff, because the central nervous system, the brain, so much fat, and a lot of long chain saturated fats that come from animals. And when a woman is pregnant, the baby is going to drain everything from her. It's going to go to the fetus first. So if this woman is not consuming a lot of vitamin D and saturated fat and stuff like that, it's going to really drain her. And that's where I think a lot of postpartum depression and like mental stuff comes from afterwards, is nutritional deficiencies, not having enough saturated fat. The brain is 50% saturated fat. When human babies are born, the size of their brain is like 30% or something of its of 100, or not of 100, but you know what I'm saying. Like, it's like only 30% the size that it's supposed to be or something. Like, all I know is that in a couple months or something, the human baby's brain grows tremendously, like several times over. And so that's coming from saturated fat. You need, breast milk is like 50% or maybe more than that saturated fat, okay? And it's from an animal, the mother, you know, and that's a long chain saturated fat, which is different than short chain saturated fat like coconut oil. Coconut oil is an excellent fat. And the saturated fats in it are excellent, but they have totally different biochemical roles than long chain saturated fats. And there is no vitamin A and D in coconut oil, but there is in cod liver oil. You know, eating liver, which is something that every tradition ate liver. Like, I don't care if you were from the American South, I don't care if you're from Africa, you're Mexican, you're from Brazil, Argentina, somewhere in Africa, Europe, Italy, France, people eat liver, okay? People eat liver and have eaten liver for generations, and liver is the most potent source of vitamin D. It's also the most potent source of iron. Also, a very potent source of vitamin A, okay? And vitamin A and vitamin D need each other for their metabolism. And so in cod liver oil if I recommend taking a vitamin D supplement to anybody, it would be cod liver oil, and not just a vitamin D bottle of vitamin D, because when you take supplements like that, they are made in a laboratory. They're not the same chemical form as what you get from food. And then they don't have the other things around them that they need for proper metabolism. Metabolism is basically the biochemical process of breaking things down and extracting nutrients from that food, you know. And if you don't have certain things in place, you know, like there's things that affect each other. So, for example, for vitamin D, it needs vitamin A, it needs saturated fats. Also, in order to absorb calcium, you need vitamin D. So you could consume all the calcium in the world, but if you don't have enough vitamin D, your body can't uptake it. So they all affect each other. And so if you're just taking a lot of vitamin D, artificial vitamin D at this high dosage, it can cause all kinds of problems. Then if you're consuming fortified foods, which I don't do, like orange juice with vitamin D, first of all, vitamin D is not supposed to be in orange juice, okay? It does not naturally occur in orange juice. So that's a processed food product of the food industry that they want to put, we're going to put vitamin D in the orange juice. Like, first of all, there's no fat in orange juice. You need fat to digest vitamin D. Orange juice is just sugar, okay, and potassium. But there's no fat in it, okay? There's no vitamin A in it. There's no calcium in it. There's nothing in it and then it's an artificial vitamin D, which is a different chemical form than the natural vitamin D, okay? And then when you have stuff like rice milk, commercial almond milks and rice milks and soy milks, and if you look at the bottle, at the container in the back, it says vitamin D2. We need vitamin D3. Vitamin D2 is it's an artificial vitamin D that does not have the same biochemical process in our body that vitamin D3 has, but it competes because it mimics vitamin D3. It competes with vitamin D receptor sites. Vitamin D is a hormone. Hormones bind to receptor sites, and then it turns things on and off. So if you have an artificial vitamin mimicking a real one, taking up space, binding onto your receptor sites, then it can cause a serious vitamin D deficiency. So consuming fortified foods and fake vitamins, you're doing yourself no justice. And that shit is in all these nutrition bars, these protein bars, a Cliff Bar, a fucking Nutriment, what is that stuff? Pedialyte, Pediasure, whatever. All that stuff, the protein shakes, they all have all the artificial stuff in it. No. You want to get it from food sources, balanced the way that it's supposed to be, so that your body can uptake it and use it and actually make you healthier and not cause more problems and throw you further off balance. You cannot trick nature, okay? Can't do it, it backfires. So the other thing, let me see. Oh, other good sources of vitamin D besides liver, grass-fed butter, cheeses and yogurts, milks from grass-fed animals. You get especially raw dairy. Also seafood, especially like shellfish and shrimp and stuff like that. Not all seafood, certain seafood. I definitely know shrimp, I think the shellfish for sure. I can't remember which other ones, but it's not all of them. Also, if you're eating a pro-inflammatory diet, so okay, your body's ability to make vitamin D from the sun also depends on your diet. Okay, so again, you need cholesterol because it is cholesterol that the UVB rays hit and interact with to make vitamin D. Then you need to have antioxidants in your system, and you need to be consuming good fats. And I love talking about fat. It's my favorite thing. I have 2 YouTube videos called All About Fat on my page, The Body Scientist 81. I love talking about fat because people are so miseducated and don't understand it, and it's so important. And what most people think is a good fat or is a bad fat is actually not bad. So, what was I gonna say? That I feel like there's so many things I want to say that I'm like jumping around because I introduced that book. I introduced this book, but I don't think I said why. I did say it was a good book, but I was going to talk about the fact that it talks about indigenous people who put fermented oils on their skin and how that affects. I love talking about probiotics and microbiomes and how when they cut themselves, a lot of indigenous people, when they cut themselves, they didn't have access to clean water right away, so they weren't cleaning it with clean water and they didn't get infections. And I find that interesting because I don't clean. People say you're supposed to clean cuts. I don't do that. I remember I stabbed myself in the hand like 11 years ago with this big knife, and it was just like gruesome and awful, and I was bleeding all over the place. And I'm trained to stop bleeding. I'm trained to do those things. So I was alone when it happened, and the next day I had to go to San Francisco on a plane. Could not even. My hand was so messed up, I couldn't even move my fingers. They were all puffed out and purple and. I remember I didn't go to the hospital or anything. I nursed myself completely back. But I remember my twin brother was just like, I'm worried about you. I think maybe you need to go get stitches. And a lot of people kept saying that to me because it was a big knife and I really stabbed myself. And people I think you might need to get stitches. You need to clean it. I didn't clean it at all. I didn't run water on it. I didn't do anything. When my navel ring damn near ripped out of my stomach in March, which was also traumatic. I was not trying to clean it. One of my friends tried to tell me, and I was like, nope, and then I started to research about how in the UK they're using probiotics on wounds, and I remember in the hospital, they gave me this antibacterial ointment to put on my skin, and I was like, nope, not doing it, didn't use it. Put some aloe vera, because not only is aloe vera antimicrobial, but it also helps the skin to heal really quickly. But I take probiotics all the time, and the probiotics, the bacteria on your skin has everything to do with the bacteria that you're putting into your gut, into your system. So the bacteria on your gut affects the bacteria on your skin, and then also what you put on your skin. So putting fermented oils on your skin is good. I actually have some fermented coconut oil. Even though I don't love coconut oil on my skin, I like cocoa butter more. But I found some fermented coconut oil here in the Whole Foods in Chicago. But in New York, I get fermented cocoa butter from the Africans on the street. And so it's really interesting. But that's also good. And so what I was saying was, yes, if you're consuming a diet high in pro-inflammatory fats like soybean oil, canola oil, corn oil, safflower oil, margarine, all of that rancid vegetable oils that are pro-inflammatory, and a lot of sugar, then when you're exposed to the UV rays, it actually causes a lot of oxidation and oxidative stress and damage. So even if you are melanated, it still will not work in your best favor. If you have a poor diet that's full of rancid fats and sugar and crap, and you're in the sun, it can still cause a lot of inflammation. And so that's why not every melanated person has beautiful skin. Not every melanated person has a glow. I see some really dusty looking melanated people that I'm like, what the hell is wrong? Because if you're drinking soda all the time, eating Doritos all the time, eating food from 7-Eleven in the lowest of lowest crap all the time, you're frying your chicken in corn oil, and you get sun, it's not going it's not going to be helpful. It's going to actually cause issues. So extracting vitamin D from the sun also depends on your diet and what's in your system as well. So it depends on what you're consuming and what you're putting on your skin. And then whenever I am someplace where it's sunny and hot, I have as much as my skin as possible exposed to the sun. One thing I like about Miami is that I can walk around like that and it's not a problem. People aren't looking at me crazy. But even in New York City, when it's hot as fuck, I'm still doing that, and I don't care. I will have, my back out as much as possible, my arms, my feet, my legs. I'm trying to get as much sun as possible on my skin. And I still moisturize. Doesn't matter how hot it is. It doesn't matter how hot it is. I still put stuff on my skin. I feel like I cook better too when I put stuff on my skin. Like I feel like if I just, even if it's hot, if I just take a shower and go outside dry, it doesn't brown me the same. So, it all interacts with each other. And so I think that I have said everything I needed to say. Yeah. Oh, last thing. The ability to make vitamin D decreases with age. So the older somebody gets, like a 70-year-old, has a lot more difficulties producing vitamin D than somebody who is 20, okay? And so as you age, your requirement for vitamin D goes up like crazy. And so that's another thing that's important to keep in mind. All reasons why I don't recommend a vegan diet. But check out the rest of my videos on my YouTube page, The Body Scientist 81. And I hope you guys have a good day. Thanks for listening. Bye.